Magic Johnson is an American businessman and former professional basketball player. Often regarded as the greatest point guard of all time, Johnson spent his entire career with the Los Angeles Lakers in the National Basketball Association. Born August 14, 1959, age 65 years, Lansing, Michigan, United States. Net worth, 120 crores USD, 2024, Forbes. Spouse, Cookie Johnson, M. 1991. Children, E.J. Johnson, Andre Johnson, Elisa Johnson. Height, 2.06 meters. Teammates, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen, more. Siblings, Evelyn Johnson, Larry Johnson, Pearl Johnson, more. Magic Johnson, net worth 120 crores USD. Early life. Irvin Johnson Jr. was born in Lansing, Michigan, to General Motors assembly worker Irvin Sr. and school janitor Christine. Johnson, who had 6 siblings and 3 half-siblings by his father's previous marriage, was influenced by his parents' strong work ethic. His mother spent many hours after work each night cleaning their home and preparing the next day's meals, while his father did janitorial work at a used car lot and collected garbage, all while never missing a day at General Motors. Johnson would often help his father on the garbage route, and he was teased by neighborhood children who called him Garbage Man. His mother raised him in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Johnson came to love basketball as a young man. His favorite basketball player growing up was Bill Russell, whom he admired more for his many championships than his athletic ability. He also idolized players such as Earl Monroe and Marcus Haynes, and practiced all day. Johnson came from an athletic family. His father played high school basketball in his home state of Mississippi, and Johnson learned the finer points about the game from him. Johnson's mother, originally from North Carolina, had also played basketball as a child, and she grew up watching her brothers play the game. By the time he had reached the 8th grade, Johnson had begun to think about a future in basketball. He had become a dominant junior high player, once scoring 48 points in a game. Johnson looked forward to playing at Sexton High School, a school with a very successful basketball team in history that also happened to be only 5 blocks from his home. His plans underwent a dramatic change when he learned that he would be bused to the predominantly white Everett High School instead of going to Sexton, which was predominantly black. Johnson's sister Pearl and brother Larry had bused to Everett the previous year and did not have a pleasant experience. There were incidents of racism, with rocks being thrown at buses carrying black students and white parents refusing to send their children to school. Larry was kicked off the basketball team after a confrontation during practice, prompting him to beg his brother not to play. Johnson did join the basketball team but became angry after several days when his new teammates ignored him during practice, not even passing the ball to him. He nearly got into a fight with another player before head coach George Fox intervened. Eventually, Johnson accepted his situation and the small group of black students looked to him as their leader. When recalling the events in his autobiography, My Life, he talked about how his time at Everett had changed him. As I look back on it today, I see the whole picture very differently. It's true that I hated missing out on Sexton. And the first few months, I was miserable at Everett. But being bused to Everett turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. It got me out of my own little world and taught me how to understand white people, how to communicate and deal with them. High school career. Johnson was first dubbed Magic at 15, when he recorded a triple-double of 36 points, 18 rebounds, and 16 assists as a sophomore at Everett. After the game, Fred Stabley Jr., a sports writer for the Lansing State Journal, gave him the moniker despite the belief of Johnson's mother, a devout Christian, that the name was sacrilegious. In his final high school season, Johnson led Everett to a 27-1 win-loss record while averaging 28.8 points and 16.8 rebounds per game, and took his team to an overtime victory in the state championship game. Johnson dedicated the championship victory to his best friend Reggie Chastain, who was killed in a car accident the previous summer. He gave Chastain much of the credit for his development as a basketball player and as a person, saying years later, "I doubted myself back then." Johnson and Chastain were almost always together, playing basketball or riding around in Chastain's car. Upon learning of Chastain's death, Magic ran from his home, crying uncontrollably. Johnson, who finished his high school career with 2 All-State selections, was considered at the time to be the best high school player ever to come out of Michigan. He was also named to the inaugural McDonald's All-American team, which played in the 1977 Capital Classic. College career. Although Johnson was recruited by several top-ranked colleges such as Indiana and UCLA, he decided to play close to home. His college decision came down to Michigan and Michigan State in East Lansing. He ultimately decided to attend Michigan State when coach Jed Hethgett told him he could play the point guard position. The talent already on Michigan State's roster also drew him to the program. Johnson did not initially aspire to play professionally, focusing instead on his communication studies major and desire to become a television commentator. Playing with future NBA draftees Greg Kelser, Jay Vincent, and Mike Brkovich, Johnson averaged 17.0 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 7.4 assists per game as a freshman, and led the Spartans to a 25-5 record, the Big Ten Conference title, and a berth in the 1978 NCAA tournament. The Spartans reached the Elite Eight, but lost narrowly to eventual national champion Kentucky. During the 1978-79 season, Michigan State again qualified for the NCAA tournament, where they advanced to the championship game and faced Indiana State, which was led by senior Larry Bird. In what was the most-watched college basketball game ever, Michigan State defeated Indiana State 75-64, and Johnson was voted Most Outstanding Player of the Final Four. He was selected to the 1978-79 All-American team for his performance that season. After 2 years in college, during which he averaged 17.1 points, 7.6 rebounds, and 7.9 assists per game, Johnson entered the 1979 NBA draft. Jed Hethgett stepped down as coach of the Spartans after the 1994-95 season, and on June 8, 1995, Johnson returned to the Breslin Center to play in the Jed Hethgett All-Star Tribute Game. He led all scorers with 39 points.